Well, coming up on today's show, Thanksgiving stress test for the Superchargers, New York City, Spurs EV growth, and the Bentley boss is promising some exciting cars. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, in fact. Welcome to EV News Daily. Welcome to a brand new week. It's a Monday, 26th of November, 2018. Holy moly, by the end of this weekend, it will be Christmas weekend proper here in the UK, at least. First weekend of December is normally when it kicks in. I think if you're listening in North America, you'd probably say it was Thanksgiving and Black Friday sales and stuff, or maybe even earlier when all the radio stations start switching to all Christmas music. Well, thank you for listening for a brand new week. As always, I spent Sunday going through every EV story I could find on the internet and the blogs and trying to save you a bit of time. Thank you as well to myev.com for helping make this show. That's the place to go to buy and sell and learn about and research about used EVs. Of course, all EVs you can research on there, but if you're in the market for maybe picking one up or buying yourself an early Christmas present and picking up a used EV, or maybe even doing what we did. We added an EV to our household just to make sure that we weren't ditching diesel too early. Of course, we knew we weren't, but that's what we did anyway. You can check out myev.com. Hello to a brand new Patreon producer of the show, Alex Banahini. Thank you very much, Alex. It's been a nice couple of weeks since you first got in touch with the show for our question of the week, and it's a real honour, and thank you very much for your generosity to join as a new Patreon producer. If anyone else is listening, by the way, they want to do what Alex has done, get their name on the show and have a look at patreon.com/EV News Daily. That's how we bring this show to you, by the way. Hello to Ian D. Burrows, who I saw on Twitter. Well, he copied me in earlier last week on Twitter and sent me a picture. He says, one of 12 BYD Electric buses now in daily use in Liverpool. Even goes as far as Anfield, by the way. That's where the famous football ground is. Future episode on real-world buses. What other cities have them operating? Yes, I like that, Ian. Good idea for a future episode. Any other cities? Well, regular listeners of the podcast will know. You've pressed my hot button there. Any other cities with EV buses? That would be Shenzhen. There's 16,000 of them. Every single public bus in the city of Shenzhen is a pure electric bus. Not a hybrid, not a hydrogen, pure electric bus. So I love knowing about 12 new ones in Liverpool. And then I always say, and there's a long way to go. But it's good news, nonetheless. Let's kick off with the news about Tesla Superchargers getting a good old workout. A few squat thrusts and star jumps for the Superchargers. They were keeping fit over the weekend, with Thanksgiving weekend in the US. Hopefully you had a wonderful time with friends and family. Whatever you were doing, it's one tradition that hasn't made its way across the Atlantic. Most things we get a few years after America, but we don't quite get that one. However, if you have had some time off, maybe from work, maybe from the usual routine, hopefully you had a lovely time. Plenty of people were in their Teslas driving them around the US, and what with over 100,000 Model 3s now being built, of course that's now 100,000 cars that weren't on the road last year. Mostly, I guess. There was a few Model 3s hanging around this time for Thanksgiving 2017, but many more cars wanting to supercharge on their way to friends and family and doing some long-distance road trips. Thanksgiving, as Electrek says, is a great stress test for EVs. Fred at Electrek says that Nico Wirz had got hold of him on Twitter and reported a long line of Model 3s waiting for a spot at the Burbank Supercharger yesterday. On Tuesday, Kevin Sanchez sent Electrek a report of 8 cars waiting to charge at the Culver City Supercharger, which is one of the bigger ones, 16 charge points. Northern California getting some significant traffic over Thanksgiving as well. The Concord Supercharger, which has got 19 of them, was also full on a few occasions. Tesla took some precautions at high traffic stations by putting up little signs saying that you were limited to charging to 40 minutes. And let's face it, once you get to 40 minutes at a supercharger, even on a big battery Tesla, you really are just topping up at the end and the charge speed starts to go down a little bit. So you were getting moved on after 40 minutes. Anticipating higher usage this week, Tesla even had mobile technicians on site to help out owners if they had any issues and to ensure the supercharger stations were up and running. I'm sure many other charge point operators could take a leaf out of Tesla's book and having technicians on site at particularly busy times. A bit like last year, no, it was earlier this year, where we had a big EV event. You know, the YouTube channel with Robert Llewellyn, which is fully charged. They had their first live event earlier this year, and of course it is coming back for 2019 next year. Cannot wait to go. They earlier this year, they were in an area that wasn't flush with EV chargers, and that was made very clear to everybody before they drove to Silverstone. But the EV chargers that were on the main routes into the area, I gather, I didn't see it myself, but I gather Ecotricity had their engineers on site, or at least mobile engineers that were going between stations to make sure that they were up and running. So another example of when there was a big EV event, those charge operators taking their full share of responsibility as well to keep us all moving. There's a brand new Elon Musk interview, which will be aired by the time you hear this podcast. It's going out on Sunday night on HBO, on Axios, and it's with Elon Musk. Always love a new interview because you get a different interviewer brings different things out from Elon. So you've got things like the kind of, I'll call them fanboy interviews, but MKB HD, which is never going to trouble Elon with any questions, and it's simply going to be, hey, let's have a look around the factory and have a great time. And then you've got things like Joe Rogan, which was a couple of hours of just, well, I was going to say shooting the breeze, but Joe is far more of an accomplished interviewer than that makes it sound like he's not. He's brilliant at putting people at ease and then asking really interesting questions with Elon. If you haven't watched the Joe Rogan stuff and maybe you only saw the headlines of Elon smoking and drinking whiskey, that was like 3 seconds of a 2-hour interview, and it was fascinating. Mostly about Elon's thoughts on the future, where we're going, AI, the human race, all those kind of things, really giving Elon's super brain a good old workout. And then I would also recommend the Recode Decode podcast as well with Kara Swisher, who sat down with Elon recently as well. And again, a whole different take on an interview because she's known him for a long time. She asked very challenging questions about his Twitter use and things like that. So this is a new interview with HBO, so I'll be very curious in 24 hours when I can probably find it online to see what the interview says. But we have got a leaked quote, and Elon says this: "I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm talking about moving to Mars. We think you can come back, but we're not sure. Your probability of dying on Mars is much higher than Earth. It's going to be hard. There's a good chance of death. Going in a little can through deep space." End quote. No, Elon hasn't lost it. Elon really does want to go to Mars. Can he please finish off what he's doing at Tesla first, though? That would be very kind. If we could just move the entire planet to sustainable transport, then you can go to Mars. Thank you very much. As reported by today's Guardian, the Axios website trailed the interview over the weekend before the scheduled Mars landing of the InSight spacecraft. According to the Associated Press, the NASA vehicle is going to be used as a mechanical mole. It's going to tunnel in 16 feet deep and measure internal heat and a seismometer to register earthquakes, meteorite strikes, and anything else that might start the red planet shaking. Well, should Elon Musk succeed in getting to Mars and succeed in landing on Mars, he expects to work non-stop to build the Mars base. There will, he said, be not much time for leisure. And even after doing all this, it's a harsh environment. There's a good chance you're going to die there, he says. We think you can come back, but we're not sure. So there's every chance that if he goes, it's the last we see of Elon Musk. Now, does that sound like an escape hatch for rich people? Musk also said he thought that the ad for going to Mars would be like Shackleton's ad for going to the Antarctic. Yeah, there are privateers out there as well, and people who were with a few million that would say, sign me up, I've done all I can here on Earth, and I've made my will, and let's go to Mars. For X many million. Well, the ad that went out in 1914 for the expedition to the South Pole, Sir Ernest Shackleton is supposed to have placed an advertisement in the Times of London that read, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful. Honour and recognition in case of success." Now, the actual advert is something of an urban myth, or maybe it's real. It's never been 100% proved as far as I know, but a great ad. Maybe a similar thing will go out for people who want to join Elon Musk going to Mars. Well, New York's unveiled a string of programs it hopes to incentivize EV purchases in the state, in addition to an existing Drive Clean rebate. Now, that knocks $2,000 off an EV purchase. The state is now deploying 200 fast chargers. When I say fast, I mean 150 kilowatt. 200 of those in more than 24 locations in major traffic corridors, JFK International Airport, and 5 large cities: Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse and Yonkers. According to Engadget, the ultimate aim is to install 10,000 chargers of all types by the end of 2021 in New York. The state's power authority has pinpointed the 32 locations, and however, fast charging may be relatively scarce, but the initiative aims for 4 fast EV chargers per location at intervals 75 miles apart. JFK's Quick Charge Hub will offer 10 stations, which suggests you could be waiting a while on a busy day. 10 isn't too many. Here in the UK, footballers and football managers, I guess you might want me to call it soccer, but I'm going to call it football because that's what it's called. Tend to have a taste in exotic supercars. When they're earning millions a month, they've got to spend their money on something after all. They turn up to training ground sessions in all sorts of cars, but not for the manager of Manchester City, one of the world's most famous clubs. Pep Guardiola travels to Manchester City when he does his training with the players in a Nissan Leaf. He earns £12 million a year, and he carpools with 3 or 4 different staff. He always rides shotgun. He's previously been seen in his £200,000 Bentley Flying Spur, but during the week he likes to use his Nissan Leaf as it's provided by the club sponsors. By the way, when you look at the pictures of this, it's the first generation Leaf as well, not even the new one for the millionaire manager of Manchester City. 2 more stories today, and the Bentley boss has been talking to Auto Express. He has been in an interview saying to Auto Express that Bentley's first fully electric vehicle is going to be with us by 2025 at the very, very latest. But until then, it's about making every model available with a plug. He promises a decent range as well from Bentleys that come with plugs. He said a 30-mile range plug-in is very transitional. 60 or 70 miles starts to get interesting. We want to create a package that works and gives real customer benefits. He said, the new Bentley CEO said we could have done something off of Porsche's Mission E, and it would have worked, but that's not what I want from Bentley. So we want to wait until the battery technology works for the types of cars that we build. In the meantime, we'll go hybrid and performance hybrid. Mid-2020s is when we think the technology will meet the needs of the bigger cars we need to build. I'll put a link in the show notes, by the way. And yes, with a Bentley, as they make... Well, they've made, I think, 6,500 cars this year so far in Q1, Q2, Q3. 6,600 Bentleys, down on that period from 2017, by the way. But it just goes to show that how few are sold, but how luxurious Bentleys are. And adding £2,000 or £5,000 even to the price isn't a big deal. I was talking about this recently on the podcast with the new Range Rover Evoque coming with a paltry 11 kilowatt hours for their plug-in hybrid. And really, for a big Range Rover expensive SUV, that's just not going to get you many miles on pure electric alone. An 11 kilowatt hour battery these days... It just feels like 5 years ago, do you know what I mean? With battery contracts securing lower and lower prices all the time. Well, Elon's talked about $100 per kilowatt hour at cell level being reached by the end of the year. At pack level, that'll take until 2020. But just say, Range Rover or Tata, who own Land Rover, Range Rover, have secured battery contracts. Say it's $150 per kilowatt hour. Well, if you put that 10-11 kilowatt hour battery in the Range Rover, you're really not adding that much these days to the sticker price of the car. Put a 20 kilowatt hour one in there. Now you're talking. Decent range on pure electric alone. But then you can start to ramp the price up where it's not so competitive as a Range Rover Evoque. I'm sure they look at the price as well in that competitive market with those gorgeous luxury German off-roaders and SUVs. Whereas with Bentleys, well, look, you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds for a Bentley. So they're big cars. They've got lots of room for batteries. And why not put a 20, 30, 40 kilowatt hour battery in a Bentley? The more battery, the better battery, the more energy dense battery as time goes on. In fact, the more you can draw, the more C rate you can take from the battery as well in a performance situation. So you can take from it the bigger battery, you can take from it quickly, you can charge it quickly as well with new technology. Bentley owners charging probably at 350 kilowatts. We're using some of that VW family technology. Fantastic. Really positive news. Finally, the Jaguar I-Pace is back in the news today. The all-electric Jaguar I-Pace has now been judged the car of the year for 2018 by readers of a magazine called Professional Driver. Imagine it's a magazine for people who drive for a living. I've never read it personally. It also won the Green Car of the Year at the same awards. The Jaguar I-Pace is the game changer that could allow private hire and chauffeur operators to go all electric, said Mark Bursa. He's the editor of Professional Driver magazine. The I-Pace generated unprecedented levels of enthusiasm at our 2-day judging event in September, and we knew we had our likely winner even before we added up the scores, said Mark. We've never had a car in such demand for test drives, and we've never had quite such a torrent of positive feedback as we had for our 2018 Professional Driver Car of the Year. As one judge commented, this could be the game changer we've been waiting for. More good news for the I-Pace. Congratulations to the Jaguar team. If you haven't heard yesterday's podcast, by the way, where we read out all of the answers to Question of the Week, as we do on Sunday's show, make sure you download that one. And here's your brand new Question of the Week, set by myev.com. It's a simple one, but it's a head-scratcher. How can we solve the problem of people parking in charging bays? Sounds simple. I don't think anyone's worked it out yet, so you can send your feedback in. Email me hello@evnewsdaily.com. How can we solve the problem of people parking in charging bays? You can leave your comment on YouTube or Facebook, and now you can leave it on myev.com. Click on Research at the top of the page, and you'll see Question of the Week. And you can, if you're signed up to the Discuss forums, you can quite easily leave your comment there. There are 120 patrons of the podcast. Thank you very much to all of you for going to patreon.com/evnewsdaily. They allow the 307 previous episodes of the show to go online for free. The archive will always be free, thanks to Patreon supporters. In the meantime, if you want to download those, you can catch up with me on the socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter by searching EV News Daily. Do have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you tomorrow.